Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I'm going to review for you this little guy right here. This is the WE Knives Zephyr. So first off, I want to thank very much my buddy Zell. Zell Ricky has a YouTube channel. He's a very interesting knife guy, and he had this sent to me, so thank you very much for that, Zell. Next thing, size comparison, of course. Right here it is against your Spyderco Delica. Here it is against your Ontario Rat number 1. In D2 steel, and your Ontario Rat number 2 in D2 steel. Hey, it's a thing finally. Sorry, a little excited there. And your steel wheel cut jack 3-inch model there. And let's see here. Anything else worth comparing to? Not really. I mean, here's the Benchmade 940. It's another... Actually, this guy is substantially wider than the 940. I don't even know why I'm doing more size comparisons. Anyways, there we are. There we are. Okay, it's going to be a long video, guys. So anyways, let's go on ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of this particular very interesting pocket knife. So first off, on the good side, Torx. Look, it's a Torx screw. It's a Torx screw. Torx. For those of you who are uninitiated, WE knives for a long time used really bad fasteners. They were star-shaped. The tool they provided was terrible. It was a bad deal all around. And so WE knives has been slowly moving away from those star screws. They are still releasing some models with them. I get it. They have to go through old stock of it and whatnot. But it's really good to see that they've seen the light and are moving to better fasteners in their lives. This is a real sign of progress, and that is something that I appreciate very much. Oh man, did they need to ditch the stars. And in fact, you will not see any star-screwed knives on my channel from here on out. I have sworn them off. So anyways, that's the first good thing, is they're using Torx here. Next thing, this has a very nice action to it. 100%. WE Knives is generally very, very good at making actions. So if I use no wrist at all, deploys absolutely reliably. This is just, it's well done, and on the close, it's a nice thick heavy blade, so it falls shut very nicely. The action on this knife is 100% reliable and very, very nice. A great follow-up to some of their previous knives, so that's good. Next thing, this has a full back spacer. And see here, the entire back of the knife is closed. That means that not only is it pretty much impossible for you to cut yourself on the knife because the whole thing is closed, but frankly, it's something you don't see that often anymore, and I don't know why. I really do miss full back spaces. They're increasingly uncommon in favor of flow-through designs, and there's a lot of joy there, and so I love seeing that. Next thing, you got a couple of color options here. This is the blue and carbon fiber, in case you can't see that this is blue and carbon fiber, but they also have it in gray. They've got some other colors, which is nice. I always appreciate the fact that WE gives you a couple of different options when you want to buy a knife. That's good. Next thing, this has a very nice clip to it. You can see here it's got plenty of height to it. It also has a very nice ramp to it. This was a pleasure to carry. You can slide it in and out of the pocket with zero concern. It just kind of drops in there, it hooks, and it falls into place. And it carries well, too, because you can see the bulk of the knife is off to this side here, and although it has a small pocket pecker flipper tab, it's not bad whatsoever, and so this was very, very nice in the pocket there. Appreciated that very much. Next thing, this is a very simple design, which means that the Zephyr was a real breeze to disassemble. Anyways, that's a beautiful thing. There's not much going on with this knife, but what's going on there is done well, and so I can't argue with that. And then finally, to me, I like the blade a lot, because you not only have an interesting shape to it. I mean, this is not a blade shape that you see every day with sort of that curvature to it. It kind of reminds me of the best parts of the WE Knives Balanoptera. But the steel on this guy, as you can just barely see there, is M390. Very nice subtle steel markings, which is good, but which is actually great. That's a top-of-the-line sort of steel. But it also has a reasonably tall grind. It gets very thin, it will cut, and it does have a sharpening choil as well. So there are many elements, and it's got a nice point to it. I mean, this is just a very nice blade. I like this blade a lot, and it worked very nicely for me in my experience here. Yeah, there is some disadvantages to having this part of it come back there, but there is some flat down here. I can't really argue with it at all. So, to me at least, that's the good of this knife here, is it's got a very nice blade to it. It's a very simple design, a great clip 100% to it, nice color options, a full back spacer, which is a rare bird these days and very much appreciated. A very nice action, and it is using Torx because WE does care about us as humans and wants us to be happy. So, that all is the good. To me, what's great about this knife 100% is the design. This is a beautifully contoured knife. I mean, and I mean that. Every part of this knife is beautifully curved and contoured. You can see there are these curves and these contours that come in here. The carbon fiber is using a set of curves here. The backspace has that flow through, but it's not like a flow through, but it's a floating backspacer thing. You got more curves on the backside, the curve following through here, the curve on the blade. This thing is just beautifully curvy. I like that very, very much. And as a result of all of these curves, all of these chamfers, this is beautiful in the hand. Absolutely 100%. This feels great. I can grab down on this as hard as I possibly can, and I just cannot find the hot spot off of it. And that's just great. Give it if you have much bigger hands than mine. Maybe you'll have a different experience, but this feels like a very cohesive, very curvy design that really does honestly look windy. I love, love, love the look of this knife. It is just beautifully done in that way, and to me, that is 100% what is great. All this contouring and curvature makes it both ergonomic and pretty attractive. On the bad side, first off, they do have the WE Knives pivot hump. What I mean by that is you can see here that on most reasonable knives, here we'll use the Rat 2 here, the pivot is completely flush with the body, or maybe there's a little tiny screw, but on WE Knives, for some reason, they're using this little guy. This made a lot of sense when you had the star screw in there, because you needed to have, something that would, prevent the sides of the star from stabbing on you. But I hope they move away from that now that they're moving to Torx. That is something I'm not a huge fan of, because it just adds a little bit of thickness down here. I don't see it. Next thing, this has what I call a non-committal recurve. If we hold a ruler up to this little guy here, we can see that it just barely recurves away from that ruler's edge. There is a little tiny bit of a gap in there, but not much of one. And what that basically means is that this knife is going to be a little bit harder to sharpen than it needs to be without any of the aesthetic effect of a recurve. So I would have preferred that they either recurve it like they mean it and really drop that blade down there, or they just keep this strictly flat. These little non-committal recurves are just kind of a pain in the neck if you're using like a flat stone, bench stone sort of system, and it doesn't do anything for us at all. So there you go. Next thing, this has this little whole groove surround thing. Look, I understand that there are aesthetic reasons you might want to do that, but at another level, I don't know. It's just, it's like a fuller. It's just going to collect crap. It's just going to be, and so I don't see the need for this little extra, because it's not like there's enough friction or something in here that I can use it to pull my finger out. Although I can flick the knife open with the hole, this part isn't helping anything. I don't know. Maybe it looks way better that way, but that's a part of the design that doesn't do it for me. By the way, you'll notice a lot of these things are nitpicks. And in fact, up until this point, everything was a nitpick, but this one isn't, because $300 is the price on this guy, and honestly, that feels like a lot of money. I mean, this is a nice knife, 100%, but the thing is, it doesn't have that feeling of value that WE Knives was once known for. Back in the day, WE was just like, they're charging how much for this? Whereas $300 honestly feels a little bit high for this. I mean, for that price, you could get a ZT562CF, which is another great knife with another great steel, with a whole bunch of greatness to it, and you're actually going to pay a little less for this. This guy, though, I mean, yeah, it's a really nice piece, but that's a lot of freaking money. And so you're damn close to high-end pieces when you're charging $300 for that. And so this just doesn't feel like value. And coming from a company like WE, that's a little disappointing. That's what they used to do so well. And then finally, on the bad side, unfortunately, the carbon fiber on this guy, although I love the use of carbon fiber here, the inlay isn't done that carefully. If we take a look here, you can see that's the edge of the carbon fiber right there sticking up off the back. So if you drag your finger along it, it can snag. And when it snags, that makes me concerned that this will peel up over time, a chip or damage. It's even worse on this side here. I mean, that is not great work. And so if they're going to do the inlay, they need to do it better than that. Not a big fan of that. And so, especially on a $300 knife, I mean, $300 is a price that this had better be freaking perfect, and that's not freaking perfect. So that's something they're going to need to work on in future versions, is making sure that that inlay is perfectly sanded and everything's working well for that to be right in there where it needs to be. And so that's the bad, is that the carbon fiber is not inlaid very well. It's got these big snaggy corners on it. $300 is a lot of money and demonstrates a move away from value from WE Knives, who really needs to be pushing value, I think, still. It does have this whole surround, which doesn't do it for me at all. It has a non-committal recurve, and it has a hump on the pivot here that it just doesn't need to anymore. Ugly-wise, honestly, there's nothing that ugly. I mean, maybe the carbon fiber, but look, maybe that'll be an issue, maybe it won't. I can't call it ugly, but it's certainly a little disappointing. Nothing else, though, is super ugly about this guy, so let's go to the final verdict, which is that, well, for me, Honestly, the thing I feel most from this knife is reassurance. We Knives dropped the ball completely with one of their most recent models, the Balanoptera. That was a scary knife to me. It was a knife where they were acting cocky, where they thought they could do no freaking wrong, and they did something really freaking wrong there. And the thing is, I can get why they would feel cocky. We has a lot to be proud of lately. As makers, they're putting out very good work. For their OEMs, for a bunch of different people. They're making Ferrum Forge, they're making a bunch of freaking stuff out there. And as designers, they do a great job with everything but screws. But I felt like with the Balanoptera, they were buying their own hype, and that never bodes well for a company. But this shows me that we is, they're back on track. Maybe they slipped up. Maybe there was just some one person champion that one through who needed to be canned or something. But look, this shows me that we is still in the game. And indeed, this is we closer to their best because it has that great action that the Balanoptera didn't have. It has great build quality that, it was there. And it has a very nice design, incorporating some of the best parts of that knife into a design that can actually be carried and used. It's not quite perfect, of course. They need to get that carbon fiber finish down there, and I really feel like the price should come down a little bit to where this feels like value again. Like at $225, at $250, this would be a gem all day long. I would really be recommending this guy, but at $300, it gets a little harder, and I do think that these high-end Chinese brands need to offer strong value in order to offset some of the consumer skepticism you get, as well as the barriers to customer service that could be there. I'd really hate to see we go the same way as Rayot, where they kind of price themselves out of contention for the bulk of the market. They do great work, but they need to focus on value here, and I think this is a little bit overpriced. But the thing is, look, none of that is terribly bad. There is nothing so wrong with this knife. And so if you're loving the style, if you're loving the look of it, and you're willing to pay the price for this little guy, I can absolutely confirm to you that this is a very solid knife, and the Zephyr, despite what the name might imply, absolutely does not blow. Huh? I had that one in my pocket. I'll review. Anyways, I hope that this was interesting and that you have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful and not too windy rest of your day. Bye now.